Yeah, so, man, I can't wait to go over neuroscience with you guys, and this is just like a taste. I don't even want to go there, because I'm just going to talk for an hour about it. There's lots of different types of neuroplasticity, of how our brains are changing, and you guys are going to read a chapter from The Brain That Changes Itself, which is my Bible, okay? You guys are laughing at it. You guys will laugh. So there are different ways for plasticity to be created. We know that our brain is made of these neurons, and these neurons can change shape. And they can, even in some rare instances, they can actually replicate too. The wide thought used to be that neurons don't regenerate at all. And in fact, they do sometimes in a region of our brain called hippocampus, and in some other regions too. So I'm not going to go more into that other than just, bam, this is what we want to talk about. Who knows what epigenetics are? All right. Can we get an explanation? What's your name in the back end?
Jared.
Jared.
It's a system that's, I don't know, it's much larger than your DNA, and that your DNA has however many, you say 20,000 or so. I don't know. The epigenetic system is much bigger, and what it does is it controls the expression of certain genes, and it can actually change how people are over like generations.
Good. And do we have anything to add to that? Be right.
It kind of combines nature and nurture, because there's certain genes that, based on how you're raised, will be expressed, and other genes that won't be expressed if you aren't raised a certain way.
That's perfect. And they've done studies where they've looked at twins before, and they've noticed that they're able to see actually what genes are being expressed and which ones aren't being expressed. And they're totally different. And while, again, it kind of goes back to the central dogma of biology, they have the same cookbook. These two twins are identical. They have the exact same DNA. But the recipes that these twins are deciding to actually cook are a little bit different.
I actually have an analogy off the cookbook.
Yeah.
Going on.
Keep going.
So the way kind of like epigenetics works is like there's a lot of times there's like our DNA. There's parts of our DNA that are not transcribed. They're like a big bunch of like DNA, and like what holds it together is this histone. And so like basically like imagine like you have the cookbook, right? But then when you're moving through the cookbook, all of a sudden like 30 pages are just glued together, right? So it's like this it's like this big page, but you can never see what's inside the 30 pages because they're all glued together. But when you keep on flipping, and what's gluing it together is a histone, and it's like hiding all that information inside. And then the histone can open up, and then all that information, you can see it. But it's not like epigenetics to say like new DNA information can be created in your DNA. It's just saying that it can open and close which DNA is being transcribed in your DNA. So it can also like close some other DNAs that could be visible in the beginning, or it can open up ones that were already there.
Yeah. And it's really complicated how that is all regulated in different cells, and that's kind of why it leads to so much different.
So who here can recall the word that David just said, started with an H? How did you do that? How did you remember to do that? Anyone? Neuroplasticity, which is measured, which is the basis of epigenetics. A gene was actually turned on in your body or in your brain that allowed different proteins to be expressed, that allowed different connections in your brain to form, which allowed you to remember the word histone.
Really?
Yeah, I swear to God. That's how it all works. It's crazy. I promise you. Just
Other
gotta read
cells in our body are plastic as well.
Alright. We're such nerds, dude. Is anyone like real bored?
I just had a comment. I'll say one of my favorite things about epigenetics is it creates a lot more possibility for overcoming genetic disease and for passing on heritable characteristics. It's like, so your environment can change you, and your offspring are predisposed to pick up those characteristics too, which is really cool. It kind of goes against the mainstream ideology.
I've always wondered that. Can you find me whether that's true or not?
I can send you some articles.
Yeah, send me if that's true or not. I'm curious.
Is true.
It is.
Okay. The way that your cells are packed really tightly, and if you develop that over the course of your life, that sort of packaging can be transferred to other cells and through I think generations.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when the twins are born, like they can have the same DNA, but when they die, they have different DNA. And then when they have their kids, like their kids will be getting different DNA. Right?
Does anyone remember the
Yeah.
difference between Lamarckian and Darwinian
Difference in packaging.
evolution?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
crazy. Lamarck was kind of right.
Yeah, so, you know, sometimes we throw out these people who we're like, no, Darwin was right. This guy Lamarck who said that animals could change over their lifetime, he was wrong, dead wrong. But now that we look a little further, we're like, well, actually, we do change in our lives, and we do pass it on to the next generation.
And the biology belief is like how to cultivate that and how to like develop positive psychological states in order to promote that.
Well,
Doesn't that only make sense though, considering mutations are constantly